Greetings, everyone. I just wanted to show you something I came across just about an hour ago. I was just preparing to go to bed, actually, and this popped up in front of me. You can see it. The West risks losing the global South, warns Finnish president. Now, as a matter of fact, let me give you all the information about what I'm looking at. This is it. DRM News. China's SCO summit, and they're asking the president of Lithuania and Finland what they thought about the SCO meeting. Now let me show you what he said.
Are the negotiations between Zelensky, Trump and Putin off the table, or is there still a chance that they will happen?
Okay.
On the two questions posed, the first is very directly linked, I think, to the ongoing competition for a new world order. We've seen that the post-Cold War era is over. I actually think that the tipping point was the beginning of Russia's war of aggression, full scale, on the 24th of February 2022. And this has led to a jostling of power, at the same time a weakening of multilateral institutions, rules and norms. And the narrative put forward from countries in the global East, namely China and Russia, is that multipolarity will provide a solution for a peaceful coexistence and global cooperation. I disagree with this approach. I think multilateralism is the best way to drive.
You notice, as he was answering the question, when he began to mention anything about multipolarity and multilateralism, someone tried to get him to stop. You notice that. It's not to be spoken of. Let's continue.
If cooperation forward, what we saw with the Shanghai Cooperation Group is what we have been seeing in the sidelines for a longer time. There's an attempt to undermine the unity of the global West. And my message, not only to my European colleagues, but especially to the United States, is that if we don't drive a more corporate...
He mentioned the unity of the West, the global West. They're beginning to call themselves the global West. They no longer want to, they want to change, they want to go put themselves in front of this thing, where people were looking at them as colonialists, calling them by that name, right? Now they're saying they're the global West, and China and Russia are the global East. It's no longer these rich countries against the poor, as in the global South against the global North. They're trying to reframe it. You have to watch these things carefully.
Or dignified foreign policy with especially the global South, the likes of India, we're going to lose this game. So I think this meeting in China on Sunday and Monday is a good reminder to all of us in the global West what is at stake. We're trying to preserve the remnants of the old order, and that's what it's all about.
You hear what he just said? We are trying to preserve the remnants of the old order. A remnant is not something that is cohesive. It's what's left of something. Means that a majority of it has already been destroyed. You see? And he is talking about how him and his European partners and all of them are together, cohesive. But they're not. We already see America just tore Europe to shreds. Why? The German economy is in tatters. The British are now, the French, I mean, we talked about the British and the French in my videos a couple of days ago. The economies are trashed. And it's even worse than the reporting on the news. The little reports that you see on the news is worse than that. But he's saying we're trying to preserve the remnants of the old order. In the old order, everybody was enslaved to these people you see standing in front of you. Just let that sink in. Anyway, I just wanted to show you this little short clip so you will see what's going on. You don't see that on the news that's normally watched. And if you're living in Africa, you're never going to see it. Because African broadcasters are not going to broadcast it. They don't want Africans in Africa knowing this. I'm going to show you something else.
Recently, I came across a post that a leader from South Africa put up, and he said that he believes that the entire continent of Africa should be run by one currency, one language, and actually all be one country known as the United States of Africa of 54 states. And as Austin Holloman, I'm going to tell you guys, that is one of the most ridiculous ideas that is an accident waiting to happen and has pretty much no chance of succeeding. And I'm going to tell you guys exactly why, because I was at an event this weekend here in Nairobi, and I have a local that's a fan of mine, and he actually said that he disagreed, and I had to break down to him step by step why that is a ridiculous idea and why it will never work. And for the people that do think that it will work, it's just because it sounds good. Like, it sounds like some Malcolm X, Black Panther fist, revolutionary stuff, and it sounds so great until you actually think about it. And then the guy that brought this up to me said, oh, well, you know, Gaddafi actually was very close to doing this. No, he was not. It was an idea that he had. He was not close to doing this, because if he was close, it would have happened. Merging dozens of these unstable states would not create security for a United States of Africa. It would just create a bigger, slower government with more blind spots. As I said, the guy that brought this up to me said, oh, as I said before, places like Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso have already collapsed into military juntas because they couldn't control Islamic militants. So imagine trying to stabilize all 54 countries all at once, or I guess states now. And again, I don't know if South Africa would be the capital. Just tell me, what is the most stable place in Africa that would be the capital of the United States of Africa? I'm free to debate. If you guys feel like I'm an idiot, tell me in the chat. If you guys have something logical to say to debate me, I'll challenge it, and I'll even respond to you in the comments. So don't forget to leave a comment. This is speaking of sending aid. I don't know if you guys noticed or not, a lot of countries in Africa, yes, they're rich in resources, and yes, they could be the richest countries in the world due to resources. But as we all know, that's not the case. And a lot of African countries have to seek aid from other countries. So if you become one major country in the first place, I don't know if it's going to fix the issue with the economic thing or what. You would now just have one giant continental country borrowing giant IMF loans. And honestly, that would honestly make corruption even worse, because now instead of them having to utilize corruption on a few, maybe 500 or 600 political leaders across the continent, that was just like 3 or 4 that they had to try to get into their head to make this a lot easier for those organizations to keep Africa down in general. So South Africa has a GDP per capita of over $6,000, but the Congo barely scrapes only a few $100s GDP per capita. And richer nations won't agree to carry the economic dead weight of the poor ones. For example, why would South Africa willingly hand over its money to bankroll the Congo's problems that they haven't been able to fix for decades, when even within the European Union, wealthier nations complain about subsidizing poor members? Some regions would get ignored, as they already are today. So essentially, by that I mean, I don't believe that the problem would be solved. It would just be under the same roof. For example, somebody that's in a rural village in South Sudan would never receive the same services as an urban citizen in Nairobi. As you can see today, it's the same way how that is. And you can look at this in real life and see how it would turn out. And back to making Africa easier to colonize again. As I said before, instead of going to individual countries, the individual 54 countries trying to corrupt them, now you would just have one leader, or even if it's a small group of them, as I said before, 4 or 5 leaders that now need to be corrupted as opposed to a few hundred. And you can go back to history and look at an example of the scramble for Africa, when European nations exploited the weak central leadership to take over vast regions of Africa, and history would literally just be repeating itself over again in a united system. Then, each time they added on new territory, it became a state instantly. It went from territory to state, territory to state. You're trying to get countries that have, they're already established countries, and you want to put them together. As I said before, you have people that have the power of an absolute monarch, and you want them to step down and become a governor. That's not going to work. And with the EU, yes, the EU is a union. Yes, they have one currency. Yes, they have treaties. Yes, they're allies. Yes, they're all part of NATO. But Germany is still Germany. Austria is still Austria. Belgium is still Belgium, if the flip side is not doing that. So let me know what you guys think. I hope you guys enjoyed that video.
He's got all his facts. Yes, he does. He has all his facts. And he has shown you what his facts want you to see. But he forgot something. When he started talking about the history, he forgot that before America became the 50 states, he forgot how many nations lived on that land that we now call the United States. How many different nations. And for how long were they fighting each other for each little territory that they controlled? Europe, same thing. How long were they fighting each other for territory? Not only for territory, they were fighting each other for everything. Everything that they can think of, they were fighting each other for. Now, I suspect that this young man don't know the history of China. The China that we saw today at the SCO. Today, yeah, the last couple of days. Does he know that China was separated into little kingdoms and fiefdoms, little towns and cities? Before we look at China today, he's got to read some books about the history that he's talking about when it comes to the so-called great powers. Russia, the territory of Russia, is bigger than Africa. And it's ruled by one man, if you want to put it that way. It has a president. And all the states that incorporate into the Russian nation have governors, mayors. But when you try to make your facts fit what you want it to fit, this is what you get. Before China became what it is now, many wars were fought. The last one is 1949, when the one that Chiang Kai-shek, I'm not going to beat around the bush and use these pseudonyms. Chiang Kai-shek, they helped him escape to Taiwan. Do you know that Taiwan, if you go look at the Han people, what they looked like before Chiang Kai-shek and his people came to Taiwan? Go to Taiwan today, especially on the north. You will see statues through all the villages, what the people look like. You see Beijing and the other big cities around China. When you move outside China, you move at the outskirts of China, it's like going to Africa. Facial, Asian face, features. The skin though, China is united now. The Europeans came into America. Indians fought. They were overpowered because they didn't have the technology in the United States. World War II, as they call it, the Europeans fought each other. When their land was destroyed, then America rebuilt it. And between 1945 and today, you got the EU. All history. But he wants to convince people that Africa must stay like it is. I'm not going to make any accusations. But I want you to do me a favor, brother. You see all the little skirmishes that are developing around Africa with the people rising up against its leaders. You didn't mention that. So I'm kind of asking the question now, who is whispering in your ear? Since you have become famous to get you to put something like this out. You see all across Africa, the young Africans, the ones that they sent to America to become slaves to build America and Europe, that 18 to 45-year-old group, they are now turning against their leaders. And every one of the groups that I heard whispering about reason, people ask them, why are you doing this? They said, look at Burkina Faso, Niger, the same nations that you mentioned, AES, that they took over by military juntas. And when you use that word, you got me suspicious about you. When you use the word military junta, when you use those words, You raise my suspicion. Who are you? Because all of those Africans are saying, look at what AES is doing. They're raising up their people. They're quoting Traore. But then again, you got your own agenda. White Africa should. You didn't say will be, will never be. You said should never unite as one country. White Africa should never unite. You, my brother. I am questioning you now. I just quoted some things from his video, but I would like you guys to go watch it for yourselves, especially you who live in Africa. You see, we are also having problems internally. Here's one man who lives in Africa, and he's preaching the same as the African leaders. We don't want to unite. Why Africa? The name of his video, Why Africa Should Never Unite as One Country. And all the things that he lists, I can't find one reason why Africa shouldn't unite. None of them is a good reason why Africa shouldn't unite. As a matter of fact, all of them are good reasons why Africa should unite. Because many of these countries all have different strengths that if they put them together, they can build. You see California and Florida, the rest of the United States don't produce the vegetables in the winter time that these two produce, feeding almost all of America during the winter months when nothing is growing in the north. Different areas have different strengths. Texas, energy. New York, money. Washington, power. California, Oregon, Washington State, tech. The Mississippi runs right up the middle of America. You can transport everything up that river to the Great Lakes. Africa. You see why I always talk about that river that goes through Gambia? It's like the Mississippi. The Nile, that too is like the Mississippi. But then we have this. Now tell me if I'm right or wrong. If I'm wrong, I will say, thank you. I comprehend why you told me I'm wrong. Have a great day wherever you are. Watch the video. Watch both of these videos that I just have showed. Peace.